What was the biggest betrayal you've ever experienced in your life? I made a new friend who seemed to really like me and was really nice and funny. Since I felt like my other friends were slowly getting toxic, I was still friends with my old friends, but I was trying to distance myself from them. Then an incident happened which basically meant I lost trust in my old friends and my new friend told me to ditch them. Since my new friend seemed so great and trustworthy, I did. This meant that pretty much my only friend was with me all the time. A week later, my new friend ditched me as well, which left me with nobody. I later found out that my old friends were actually friends with the new friend and told the new friend to do this exact plan of me ditching the old friends and then the new friend ditching me. Great. Ex-husband deployed to Thailand. I had saved up money to take my 3 small children back home to see family. At the time, I had never felt closer to my husband. He had just recovered from a near-death experience, and I had just had major neurosurgery and our youngest child was only 3 months old. I loved my family and thought my husband was a saint. While on my trip to Texas to see family, I'm buying diapers and my card gets declined. I think it's a mistake, so I try again to no avail. A friend pays for my diapers and I immediately check my bank and am overdrawn. I contact the Red Cross to have my husband call me. He tells me that the army has made a mistake on his paycheck and he will try to fix it. It did not become fixed. I had to borrow money from relatives to get back home with my children and feed them till the next payday. A couple of weeks later, husband comes home and we are scheduled to attend this big formal ball. During the festivities, one of his friends alludes to him having 3 girls at once. When I question him, he panics and explains that when he was in Thailand he spent all the money I had saved on prostitutes and now he was afraid he had an STD and that I would need to be checked. I remember being thankful for my friends because I didn't get out of bed for about 3 days. Total and complete devastation. TLDR, husband left me stranded across the country with babies and no money because he spent it all on prostitutes. He had been my closest friend for 30 years. I was godfather to his daughters. After his divorce from a domestic abuser, he served time for this. I spent lots of time and money helping him get back on his feet. It turns out he drank most of the money away and did little to work on his business. Instead, he spent lots of time in an expensive rebound relationship, developing a taste for fine wines and dining out. I moved in for a while to help with the kids. He was gone for days at a time, but not out working on his business. Before I came to the reality he is a thief, a drunk, and a liar. I was out $15k and my mom was out the $5k he used to avoid foreclosure. He never even thanked her. My love for the kids blinded me and made me the fool. A while back, when I was in college, one of my longtime friends was living with me. At the time, his parents paid his bills mostly, and he worked occasionally. My friend, we will call him Joe, rarely went to class and eventually dropped out. No big deal if you don't go to school, but you should at least work. Joe ended up having a falling out with his parents, and with his low amount of hours could afford to pay his portion of the rent or other bills. Again, no worries, we were friends, and I had a decent paying job at the time, so I helped out for a while. The betrayal part came into play when he consistently didn't pay for bills and eventually stole from me while I was at work. Keep in mind that he was still living with me at this time, and I was basically supporting him while he sat home most days and did nothing. To date, he owes me well over $2,000 and stole 2 Xbox One games, tools and other electronics totaling close to $500. TL/DR, longtime friend and roommate at the time, quit paying bills and stole over $500 worth of items from me. I directed a play at my high school last year. It was easily one of the hardest/best things I've ever done. It was an 8-person cast, and I had to turn away many people, but did cast one of my friends. We knew each other since middle school, and that year started playing D&D with him. He is a smart person and a really good actor. As soon as I was put in charge of him, he shifted. I quickly began to realize how sexist and cruel he could be. It hurt a lot. He shit-talked the show to cast members and classmates. Told people he didn't think it would be good. Argued explicit stage directions in the play endlessly. And only chilled out once we asked one of the boys in the cast to speak with him. He skipped most rehearsals. It frankly was bad. It was the first show I directed, and I didn't know any better, and I didn't know how to stop it, or what to do about it. Out of everyone in the cast and crew, maybe 12 people tbh, I was hurt the most. I considered him a friend and a close one too. Now I know how manipulative he can be, and how many of the things he told us when we were friends was probably very skewed. But still I am so proud of that play, and I discovered what I wanted to do with my life because of it. All's well that ends well, I guess. My mother stole 4 years of college tuition my dad saved for me after calling my university posing as me to get my housing cancelled. She then told him that I blew the money and left town. My dad used to beat me growing up, and we hadn't worked through our issues yet. He believed her, and her theft wasn't discovered until years later. Honestly, that's not the worst she's done, but it was the moment I realized she never was, or will be a mom to me. My ex-boyfriend, dated 5 years, lived together for 1, was absolutely perfect. Funny, worked hard as a restaurant server, good with my family, just overall great. So we moved in together into my parents' after 4 years, to save for a house down payment. Suddenly, everything changed. I started paying for every date and every bill, started lending him money, because he found himself without. I kept asking what was going on at work and he'd just say it was slow. Turns out he took advantage of his new rent-free life, and was spending like crazy on sex workers and tons of cocaine. He bought a female coworker he found attractive a Louis Vuitton bag. Still makes my blood boil to think about how he kept his scumminess a secret so long. In high school, I became good friends with a girl. Over the next year, she and I learned everything about each other and grew really close. I began getting feelings for her, and she confessed that she had them for me once I had told her about mine. However, she told me that she wasn't sure if she was ready to date, yet due to her still being upset over her breakup with her long-term boyfriend, which had happened nearly a year ago at that point. Should've seen that as a red flag popping up, but I said that I understood. School gets out for the summer about a week later, and I suddenly get an email from her with some of the nastiest stuff I've ever read. It's just full of all these really mean put downs, and how I was a horrible person and her making fun of the insecurities I had told her about. I emailed her back, hurt and confused, since this email had literally come out of nowhere. The day before, we had been talking like normal. She never responded, and I went into that summer break wrecked, and suddenly without my closest friend. About a month and a half or so later, her best friend messages me and tells me what had happened. It turned out that, pretty much the whole time, she had been using me as a way to make her ex-boyfriend jealous to try to win him back. Once she thought she had leeway with him, she dropped me. Her best friend was told about everything and decided to come tell me because she thought it was horrible. I dealt with some pretty big trust issues for a long time after that. Joke was on her though, because I ended up dating her best friend a few months later. We broke up a year later. Now, over half a decade later, I'm the happiest I've ever been. Bad things happen, they can bring us down, but they make us stronger for our futures. My ex-best friend of nearly 12 years did. I had just gotten married a few months prior to the incident. My husband had lost his job right before our wedding, but found employment after searching. This was during the recession in early/mid 2009. We attended church together, and one night my husband was working, so I had to go to church by myself. I walk in, best friend didn't see me, but she was gossiping about how stupid my husband was, how he couldn't provide her income, how I was taking advantage of her, etc. I immediately walked out feeling absolutely horrible. I sent her a message a few days later pretty much asking if it was true. She replied with yes, adding a few more things to it. Like how I was a faker. I used her over the past 12 years. My husband couldn't provide a decent life for us. I was stupid for marrying him. She also had the nerve to blame me for my miscarriage. She was actively telling people what a horrible person I was. It's been 10.5 years I've forgiven and moved on, but still after nearly 12 years of friendship down the drain it hurts so badly. It's not that serious, but my guy best friend who I was having sex with, it was a FWB relationship as well, and as also my ex was doing shit w my girl best friend behind my back and now they're dating. I honestly wouldn't have cared if they were honest with me, but they lied and made me seem crazy for assuming they were a thing. I don't care anymore because it was like a month or two ago and I move on pretty quick. After that I saw who they truly were as people and they are not people I want to associate with. They're extremely selfish and they claim to be hippies and all about peace and love, but only care about themselves and don't care about others.